Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of my bill, H.R. 2115, the Public Disclosure of Drug Discounts Act. And first, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Congressman Arrington and Congressman Boyle, for their partnership on this bipartisan legislation. I thank Congresswoman Slotkin for her cooperation and commitment to our efforts, and I thank Congresswoman Schakowsky for her work here today. If we are going to make substantial long-term progress on the issue of prescription drugs, we can't be afraid to work in a bipartisan manner, and I thank my colleagues for joining me in this fight. I would also like to thank Chairman Pallone and Chairman Neal for their dedicated work to tackling prescription drug costs, and the Energy and Commerce and Ways and Means Committees for voting to advance our bill and making this floor vote possible. This bipartisan bill would help address the #1 concern facing Central Virginia's working families, chronically ill and seniors, the rising cost of health care. In every community in the 7th District of Virginia, from Chesterfield to Culpeper, the extremely personal effects of rising prescription drug costs are on full display. Whether at a coffee shop, a town hall, or a street fair, I always hear yet another heartbreaking story from a mother, a father, a grandparent, or a young adult struggling to afford their prescription drugs. People genuinely feel helpless, and it's due to no fault of their own. In many cases, steep costs have forced them to make nearly impossible decisions. A costly, life-saving medication could mean buying fewer groceries for their family. It could mean reluctantly selling their home, and it could mean saving less or nothing at all for their retirement or their kids' education. And even for those who are healthy, there's an overwhelming fear. What if I get sick? Or what if a loved one gets sick and we can't afford the medication? Back in August, I held a roundtable with patients, pharmacists, and healthcare providers in Henrico County to discuss this community-wide issue. Together, we talked about the financial challenges caused by overpriced drugs, but we also discussed the issue of pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. To those in the healthcare industry, PBMs are known as the middlemen between drug makers, health insurers, and pharmacies. But for many Americans, PBM remain a mysterious player within a prescription drug marketplace. Operating in the murky world of drug negotiations, there are few windows into the values of the rebates and the discounts PBMs receive from drug companies. Effectively, they're a black box in the long supply chain from the pharmaceutical company to the patient. During our roundtable in Henrico, one local pharmacist described how PBMs continue to enjoy record profits thanks to the pharmaceutical industry, while patients and pharmacists get stuck with unsustainable costs. Right now, the 3 largest PBMs control 3/4 of the U.S. prescription drug market. There seems to be little transparency, and where there's zero transparency, there's rarely room for accountability or oversight. If we don't cast sunlight into this black box, patients will continue to be left in the dark without the effect of PBMs on the prices of specific drugs. The Public Disclosure of Drug Discounts Act would be a step towards bringing greater transparency to this broken system. The principle behind my bill is simple. Let's take the information already provided to the federal government and let's make it public. PBMs are already required to declare rebate data, discounts, and generic dispensing rates to HHS, but under my bill, this information would be posted publicly for the general public to see. But beyond the principle of my bill, the goal is even simpler: lowering drug costs for our neighbors. By sharing this information online with American consumers and businesses, we would give seniors, families, and pharmacists a better sense of how PBMs could be influencing excessive prices. And we would start to address one of the root causes of our prescription drug affordability crisis. In Central Virginia and across the country, families should not be racked by constant uneasiness about their financial well-being, simply due to rising drug costs. And they shouldn't be forced to silently accept the undisclosed results of PBM negotiations that could be bankrupting them. We need to show the American people that we want to see progress on this vital economic issue, that we are hearing their stories, seeing the problems that exist, and actually moving to reform a prescription drug marketplace that too often seems to be working against the best interests of the American patients. Today, I call on my colleagues to pass the Public Disclosure of Drug Discounts Act because we are long overdue for meaningful actions that can turn the tide. I yield back.